quick bonus video for things I've got going on here, which, you know, don't make a lot of sense to anybody, but do to me. I ordered a bunch of bare root trees. These are some red-fleshed apple trees, and one apple tree which is not red flesh, but it's actually very white. It's almost like a pure white on the skin on the outside. And so I took the bare root trees and I potted them up here in these 3-gallon containers. Well, 2 or 3 gallon, and one's a little bigger, but I potted those up because I need to get the trees ready for this fall when there's a lawn. Over here, you can see the next project I was working on this morning, which is taking some scrap lumber that I had laying around, literally just leftover scrap that was going to be tossed out, and putting together this planter bed. It's made of some pretty solid material. This is not pressure treated, but given that it's 1.5 inches thick, I'm hoping I get at least a couple of good solid years out of it before it rots away, and that should be long enough to actually veneer the outside of this with a stone and mortar wall. So it's going to join this row of planter beds over here on the end, and I think I'm going to build 2 more, but I'll have to buy some new material because I've used up all the scrap that I had left over. So just real quick, I'll run over here. So right around here is where it'll go to flank the end of this one. And so these are some kind of gooseberries or currants. I don't remember because I've planted them so long ago. I'll have to wait till they fruit to figure out which is which. This is another set. I've redone this bed this spring. This was the nursery bed that had all of the berries that you're seeing in these planter beds were all in this bed as of January 1st this year, a couple months ago. But in the early spring and over the last few weeks, I've transplanted them out. So each bed has a dedicated type. So in here you can see there's 6 kind of similar plants. The rock is holding the label of what these are. Underneath it there's a bag with a label, a tag, until I print the metal tags or stamp the metal tags in the shop, and mount it out here to the planter bed. And then on the end where you see these 3 or 4 kind of slightly different color, taller trees growing, those are mulberry plants, which I need to transplant this spring, or I might let them go for the remainder of the season and then just do them in the fall. But those are mulberries, and over here these are either gooseberries or currants or something of that ribes family. Again, another set. So I have black currants and red currants, and I have gooseberries and josta berries and Saskatoon berries. Here you can see this bed needs to be mulched. The taller plants are the actual species that I'm trying to grow. Everything that's in the kind of lower tier is just weeds that need to be weeded. So I'll probably get to weeding that just after it's drizzling out. Kind of cold, but it's worth doing. Over here, these are honeyberries. I planted those 2 last year in the nursery bed. For some reason I didn't order 6, I only ordered 2. I have no idea why. I must have been half asleep, or maybe 2 beers down that night when I was ordering it, because I only ordered 2 plants. But I ordered the other 4 that have come in, and I planted those with my mother. She was here visiting the last couple days in anticipation of Mother's Day. So these honeyberries, that was a good activity, was putting a couple of those in the ground. They're each a different variety, so all 6 of these plants are honeyberries, but different cultivars. So it should help with the cross-pollination, hopefully get some pretty good yields and some variety, even within this bed. This post I had hit with my tractor last year when I was doing some shenanigans, and then I cut a brand new post this morning to replace it. So I have to, take out the screws that are holding the bottom part of the broken post in, cut this new post to length, and reinstall it. However, I'm out of the screws that I need, which I've ordered and won't be here until Monday. So that's why the planter bed is half finished over there. The one I was just showing you, I need to get the screws in on Monday, finish putting the screws in that, cut a few more of these tall posts for the corner posts. I have the netting in stock. So within a couple days, 3 days, I should have that planter bed fully assembled with the post and this one repaired, and both of these with nets back on them. So that'll be good. These were all put in this spring. In fact, most of the plants, the original stalks, are dead. They didn't make it, but what happened was from the root stem, or from the root stock, there is new plants, the appropriate plant coming back up in each of the locations where I planted something, which is really good, but it means I got to get in there and do some serious weeding as well. Continuing the theme, this bed, also it's doing really well with the plants that I've transplanted in the spring. I even have what looks like some fruit set. I believe these are the Saskatoon berries, if I'm not mistaken, by looking at them. You can see the little fruit clusters set on the top. I don't know if you can see that there, but these beds need some serious weeding And all of the beds need a new fresh layer of the wood chip mulch, but I've already gone through 60 bags of mulch this year, and I'm sick of buying bags of mulch. I need to get some bulk material dropped because I hate the plastic waste. It's not sustainable. So, and I know a lot of my folks who watch this are into sustainability like I am, so yeah, I know it's terrible, so I need to switch to bulk material, and I'm going to get some dropped here this week. So yeah, I need to do a lot of weeding in these beds, and then I need to drop new fresh mulch to hopefully help suppress future weeds from coming in. And by and large, that's the plan for the berry beds. So that's one of the jobs that I was working on today. And I'll take you over to the third and final job I'm working on today. So I'm over here at the nursery bed, which is what I call this mountain of topsoil that was just kind of left here when it was supposed to be spread during a previous portion of the construction project. But most of it was spread out. I did it with the tractor manually to just kind of put something over this whole area here, which I know doesn't look so good on camera, but actually just in the spring has started to put on a ton of just weeds and things coming up, which is good because for me, weeds is a sign that there's some sort of nutrition in the topsoil. All of my material is such rocky shale that any kind of growth is a sign that I'm headed in the right direction. So anyway, this bed, I have been digging up the individual trees that had been nurseryed in here because of work on the lawn, and I have planted virtually every tree where its permanent home is supposed to go. And I know this looks a little chaotic, but over there where the two trees to kind of the center of the frame, the lighter color one and the cedar, that's the area I call the pond. And eventually I'd like to put a swimming pool or a swimming pond or something like that in that spot. So with a large perimeter around each of those trees, I've planted alternating rows of Asian pear and either a plum or some sort of stone fruit species, plum, pluot, cherry plum cross, that kind of thing. And they're alternating, like I said, basically pear, stone fruit going around. So eventually when those pears reach maturity and get some height and some shape, it'll help provide a little bit of shade and kind of seclude that area a little bit in terms of a private spot just to hang out and go swimming or whatever. The long-term vision is that, again, if there's a pool or a pond in that spot, there'll be a path going between these cedars, heading from the whatever the water feature is, through those cedars to where my planter beds are now. And the intention is those planter beds actually form the perimeter of what I'd like to be a real full structure greenhouse at some point. For the last couple of years, I've just put planter beds in there because I needed somewhere to get started with some berries and just get some production going. One of those beds closest to me on the corner, the closest in the center, I should say, that's actually a nursery bed for some of the trees that are going to go out on the lawn that I've purchased to try to get some size. So all of this was part of planning, knowing that long term what I wanted, and then knowing that if I planted a couple years in advance, I could save a lot of money on the trees in terms of size, because you buy bare root trees for $25 a piece. If you buy a 10-foot tall tree, you're talking about a few hundred, and really it's just a couple years worth of time and patience and good soil. So I invested in the soil in terms of building those planter beds out of scrap wood. And again, that was all scrap. So I've got almost nothing into it but my time and maybe a few $100s worth of really good topsoil I put in there. So anyway, there will be a pond or a pool, and then that'll go through the cedars into what will be the greenhouse, but I'll put a shower in the corner of the greenhouse because I'll need water in there anyway for watering the plants, so that way you can rinse off after using the pool. And yeah, anyway, so planted a lot of plants there on that ring that would surround the pond area, or what I call the pond, even though there's no pond there. But then coming back here, I still have some new trees that came in that I haven't really planted, so I just healed them in. Over here you can see I've got 3 or 4 different kinds of jujube to go in addition to the 2 or 3 I already have in this bed. I think 1 more red fleshed apple here. I've got a red fleshed apple over here, and I have a total of 3 Asian pears left in this this mound that I need to put in, which I know where they're going to go, but there's some large mature trees that need to be dropped before I can plant these in their final home because they're at risk of getting squashed when I drop the big trees. And then this was just a crab apple. I say crab apple, it was an apple rootstock where the upper part of it was killed by deer, and so whatever's growing is the original rootstock, not the species that I bought. So this was a Honeycrisp plant that I bought, but I believe what's coming up is just the rootstock. So I'm going to let it grow just as a pollinator since it's effectively a dead tree, but it'll be it was a dead tree and now it's going to be a free pollinator. So over here you can see the jujube. I'm sorry, the focus is terrible, but the jujube is just starting to put on some new side shoots, which is interesting. Over here I can just see, again, focus is terrible, but I'm just starting to see some action here. The jujubes are incredibly slow growing here. They did almost no growth at all last year, which I found very strange. The pears have finally come into their own. They didn't grow much last year, but this year they are definitely looking like they're healthy and ready to go. So I'm optimistic that they will put on some profound growth as I prepare to move them out of this mound. And the earth that's here will go into that planter bed like I was talking about from the project earlier. So I'm going to put in later this year, or at some point in the fall, put in the jujube orchard with these 5 or 6 trees that I have. I'm going to replant the 3 Asian pears in an area that I want to, replace a couple that had died a few years ago. And yeah, plant in the 1 pollinator apple somewhere where it makes sense. Plant that 1 red-fleshed apple as a feature, probably out by the gate that I'm building. And that's pretty much what's going on this side. Over here, I put in a couple of more stone fruit on the deck garden, this is all pluots and things of that nature. This is a brand new tree that I just put in about a week or 2 ago, so it's just breaking dormancy, even though it's several weeks behind the other trees right now. But it's first leafing out, so that's good. So if it leaves out and takes off where it is, this is its forever home, so that'll be good. It can hopefully catch up to these. Obviously these trees are terribly imbalanced. I still need to weed whack and trim around them. But I did hire someone to actually mow my lawn for the first time here last week. So now that I have someone doing that, it frees up many, many hours where I'll be able to spend more time keeping up on the weeding and the trimming, and hopefully the spraying for bugs, and on the lookout for that sort of thing with all of the fruit trees in the orchard. As you can see, I also had some work done this spring with refreshing the driveway and regrading. Over here, I have spent the last few days just rock picking. You can see my small piles of rock, but I've just decided that even though I've been doing that here for 100 million years, picking stones by hand, I'm actually going to have somebody come with a rock hound or a rock rake on a mini, I'm sorry, not a mini, a skid steer, and rock rake this whole area and address an area down there with a little bit of topsoil. I'm going to finally move my dead pickup truck, and I'm going to take out a lot of these dead ash trees. There's a huge one down at the end of the driveway. There's this one marked with the paint coil here. I'm going to address all these stumps that need to be taken out, and really kind of clean up this section between me and my neighbors. So finally I can have a nice clean property line that's maintainable. And that's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks. I think a little more final grading on the south lawn will be next week, and then about 2 or 3 weeks we'll be doing this project here that I just talked about for cleaning all that up and actually throwing some grass seed down. All this area that I'm walking through right now will also be power raked and smoothed out, because it was done with my tractor as a rough grade. And so as you can see, there's spots that are definitely very rocky that need to be rock raked. And this large tree right here, which is very unfortunate, it's an ash tree. It's dead, and it's one of all of the ash trees here on the property are dying from that emerald ash borer. There's nothing I can do about it. I looked into remediation, and it's so expensive, it's not worth doing. It's several $1,000s a tree to keep them alive for a year, and it's a recurring cost. So unfortunately that ash tree has to go, and unfortunately all the ash trees will be going eventually. So I will be having some tree work done to take down a great many of these ash trees in the next couple of weeks. When I come to do that grading, I'm going to have the same team kind of handle that. Over here on the lawn, the last bit I want to talk about for projects I've been doing the last week or 2. Obviously you saw the videos, maybe if you're a regular subscriber, about bringing up the grade over there where the cars are parked. Long story short, this section right here is still a little high. I'm going to have the gentleman come with the bulldozer to try to lower this grade down a notch, just to get it closer to where it needs to be for finished, perfect walkout grade. And then bringing in another couple loads of fill over there to just raise that corner up a little bit higher, which should establish my final grade once and for all, leaving this area open for the final topsoil spread, which won't probably happen until the fall. And maybe I'll put the topsoil down in the September, late August, September, and then hope to put the grass seed down to let it germinate in the fall season. Over through here, I actually spent the last couple days with my mom visiting, and we picked stones out of this area right here, and I pulled off the forms that were previously going along the concrete. Forgive all the plants on the patio, but they're all the seed starts for this year. So yeah, so basically this area has been rock raked and is much closer. You can see some of the large divots where big stones were projecting, and now it's at a point where I think covering it with topsoil will get me pretty close Over here, again, there's too much fill that was brought in here, backfilled in here, and so the grade's a little high. But when they come through and scrape all this off with a bulldozer, try to fill in the low spots, and then ultimately raise that corner up the last little bit, I'll have a nice level flat grade, which is the finished grade of the property. And so no more major grade changes up here, maybe on the far part of the southern lawn, or the southernmost lawn for sure in the future, but not for now. So that's the list of projects. It's been a lot of work on trees, a lot of work on planter beds. I don't know if I've filmed already, but as you can see, almost every single tree in the orchard have now been not only individually caged for the deer. There's a bag of Irish Spring soap tied, which helps deter them. It does seem to work in my experience here in upstate New York. It's not bulletproof, but it seems to be part of the comprehensive protection strategy. And then on top of that, I've also remulched all the fruit trees that have the trunk guards, the corrugated plastic, which is there to prevent against rodent damage, because rodents were girdling my trees. And so I still have maybe 10 trees left to do, just various trees around the perimeter of the property that I planted, peaches, things like that. A couple of apples I put in a few years ago. And so I have that kind of work to do, but I should stop yapping and get on with it because it's raining, kind of cold and miserable today. Probably 50 degrees, I'm guessing, maybe not quite. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Not super exciting, but definitely spring work is in progress and the construction season is back on. Obviously, we've got some work going on today. You can see the workman up there on the roof. He's doing the stucco coat right now. So work is proceeding. It's just a matter of you know, getting back into the swing of it and hopefully making some serious progress this year on wrapping up the construction, or the fundamental construction going on here, to work on minor projects and get out of construction war zone mode and into finished mode. So with that, that's where we are. All right, I'll catch you later.